Deepwater, 2026, tells the story of a Northeastern Airlines flight from Los Angeles to Shanghai that turns into a nightmare when a massive fire breaks out on board. Forcing the crew to make an emergency landing in the Pacific Ocean. The survivors must then fight for their lives in shark-infested waters filled with deadly man-eating mako sharks. Can they survive before help arrives? The film begins by introducing Ben, a commercial airline pilot who is struggling with serious family problems because his child is critically ill. Despite being emotionally distracted, Ben still has to carry out his duties as a pilot. Meanwhile, at the airport, a suspicious passenger named Den secretly places a charging mobile phone inside a suitcase. Shortly afterward, Ben begins a long-haul flight from Los Angeles to Shanghai alongside Captain Rich, a veteran pilot and his longtime colleague. Once all passengers have boarded and preparations are complete, the aircraft receives clearance for takeoff. At first, everything proceeds normally. Passengers enjoy their journey, unaware that disaster is waiting ahead. However, while flying over the Pacific Ocean, sparks from Den's phone suddenly ignite a fire in the cargo compartment. The flight crew immediately attempts to extinguish the flames, but the fire quickly grows out of control. Oxygen tanks begin exploding one after another, turning the situation into chaos. Thick smoke fills the cabin, causing widespread panic among the passengers. Meanwhile, Ben and Captain Rich desperately try to save the aircraft while keeping everyone calm. Unfortunately, the damage becomes too severe. The engines begin to fail, and the pilots gradually lose control of the plane. With no other option, Captain Rich decides to perform an emergency water landing in the Pacific Ocean. The landing does not go smoothly. The aircraft slams into a coral reef and breaks apart into several pieces. Many passengers are killed instantly. Only a handful of survivors manage to stay alive by clinging to floating wreckage. Ben survives the crash, but Captain Rich is seriously injured and trapped in the wreckage with his leg pinned. Realizing his condition, Captain Rich tells Ben to leave him behind and focus on saving the other survivors. Elsewhere, several passengers, including Den, survive in another section of the aircraft. Ben begins searching for ways to keep everyone alive while waiting for rescue. Things become even more terrifying when a flight attendant attempts to retrieve a signal receiver from the middle section of the plane and is suddenly attacked by a shark. Ben, along with a young girl named Cora and another survivor, rushes to help. Sadly, the flight attendant is killed by the shark before they can save her. Soon, more survivors begin to come under attack. Several people become victims, while others start blaming each other, leading to heated arguments. Ben arrives and urges everyone to use the inflatable life raft and flotation devices because the wreckage is slowly sinking. While the group struggles to survive, Ben tries to locate and activate an emergency tracking device so rescue teams can find them. However, while helping Cora, he temporarily entrusts the tracker to Den. Unexpectedly, Den loses the device. Furious, Ben confronts him, and a major argument breaks out among the survivors. Later that night, a fishing vessel receives news of the commercial aircraft crash in the Pacific Ocean. Coincidentally, they are the closest vessel to the crash site and immediately head toward the survivors. Back in the ocean, the exhausted survivors begin losing hope. Then, they finally spot a rescue helicopter searching for them. Unfortunately, during the rescue operation, one of the rescue personnel is suddenly attacked by a shark. The helicopter loses control and crashes into the sea. The impact causes the survivors' life raft to overturn, making the situation even worse. Not far away, the fishing boat eventually spots the survivors. However, It cannot approach directly because dangerous coral reefs beneath the surface could destroy the vessel. In the middle of the crisis, Ben once again risks his life to save Cora, who has drifted far away after the raft capsized. Armed only with a flare gun, he fights off several aggressive sharks to protect the young girl. But another unexpected event occurs. The sharks that were pursuing Ben suddenly change direction and head toward the fishing boat. It turns out the boat's captain had dumped the entire catch of fish into the ocean to lighten the vessel's load, unintentionally attracting the predators. Meanwhile, Den assumes the sharks have left and becomes careless. As a result, he is attacked and killed by a shark. The other survivors, who had grown frustrated with his selfish behavior, simply watch and make no attempt to help him. In the end, Ben, Cora, and the remaining survivors are successfully rescued by the fishing vessel. After enduring the horrific ordeal, Ben finally calls his wife and tells her that he is alive. In the film's final moments, he looks at a photograph of his sick child, hoping that he will soon be reunited with his family. The movie ends.